Every fall, when maple leaves burn red along Lochwood's crooked streets, the library staff strings paper bats from the sagging rafters and dusts off rubber creatures for the annual monster hunt. It began decades ago as a children's literacy challenge. Follow riddles, find hidden books, but over time the hunt sprawled well beyond the ivy-cloaked building. Now half the town tromps to nearby Larkspur Swamp at dusk, flashlights sweeping reeds, while volunteers in elaborate costumes leap from shadows to recite nursery rhymes and distribute gummy worms. 17-year-old Sunny Dale, Lochwood Public's newest teen librarian, had spent weeks folding maps, scripting clues, and lecturing volunteers about safety. She adored the event's ramshackle theatre, fog machines puffing by the koi pond, librarians cackling in thrift store capes, toddlers screaming delight at papier-mâché ghosts. This year, Dr. Edgar Waistell, the county historian, volunteered to play the swamp's own local legend, the Mireling. The Mireling, at least as Waistell loved to tell it, was no ordinary bog monster, but a grief-soaked spirit of drowned settlers who built the original trading post. Speak its true name 3 times beside black water, and the Mireling rose to trade life for knowledge, pulling questioners beneath the surface before whispering any answers. Sunny had rolled her eyes at the melodrama, but Waistell had insisted the legend had teeth. In the days before the hunt, he'd paraded around the archives in his hand-sewn scaled cloak, rehearsing guttural calls that rattled microfilm cabinets. He even waved a battered leather folio, primary source, he'd declared, asking Sunny for a secure glass case. She, harried by overdue notices and middle school requests for zombie manga, promised she'd find one after the hunt. That night, when the doors opened for registration, the folio had vanished backstage, and Waistell, surprisingly cheerful, shrugged it off. Some stories prefer to walk themselves home, he said, eyes glittering behind fogged spectacles. The hunt began at twilight. Families clustered on the library's lawn, while Sunny, wearing her stitched-on name tag and a fuzzy bat headband, outlined the rules. Follow the riddle map, collect 5 stamps, return for cocoa, no unsupervised wading. Waistell towered behind her, scales shimmering green under floodlights, a crown of glossy swamp weeds draped about his shoulders. Cameras flashed. Someone from the Herald joked that with his grey beard and solemn gaze he looked too convincing, and Waistell leaned into the microphone. "Remember," he intoned, voice scraping like bark, "the Mireling bargains dearly." Laughter scattered among the crowd, but Sunny felt a prickle behind her ears. The historian enjoyed the part a little too much. Still, when the first clue led treasure hunters along the boardwalk, Waistell slipped between cattails, ready to emerge later and frighten teenagers. Sunny returned indoors, refilling cider urns and stamping maps for latecomers. From the window she glimpsed him once more, a hunched silhouette against violet sky, reeds swallowing him whole. An hour later, the chaos swelled. Costumed volunteers, pumpkin-headed pirates, feathered harpies from the 5th grade art club radioed in for extra flashlights. A 10-year-old tripped on a tree root, and Sunny dashed across damp turf with bandages. While she knelt wrapping the scraped knee, Mayor Fergus Whitcomb sidled up, smelling of cinnamon and campaign brochures. "I hope liability's covered," he muttered, surveying the foggy swamp. The mayor had clashed all summer with Waistell over property grants. Rumour claimed Fergus wanted to drain part of Larkspur for lakeside condos, but the historian had waved environmental impact studies like Holy Writ. Sunny assured the mayor the library counted each flashlight and kid. Fergus grunted, stepped aside to answer his phone, and Sonny caught him saying, "I don't care what he found, we break ground in spring." The bandage secured, she turned to ask questions, but Fergus was already striding toward the concession tables. Just after 9, a scream cleaved the night. Not the delighted squeal of a child, but a raw, tearing sound that rooted Sonny's boots to the boardwalk. She glanced toward the sound, deeper in the swamp, beyond the final clue station. Flashlights bobbed as volunteers hurried, parents called names. Without waiting, Sonny sprinted toward the noise, radio crackling against her hip. The path narrowed, slick planks shuddering underfoot. 30 yards in, she smelled rotten pond and saw a cluster of people staring into dark water. A teenage volunteer dressed as Medusa sobbed, snakes drooping. 2 staff members knelt on the bank, and between them floated the green-scaled cloak, spread like algae. A limp arm protruded. Swamp weeds trailed from the wrist like bracelets. Dr. Edgar Waystell, mouth slack, beard fanning in black water, stared upward at a moon he couldn't see. The sheriff's deputies arrived quickly, but not as quickly as the rumors. By the time the body was wrapped and everyone herded back to the library auditorium, half the town whispered that the mireling had claimed its actor. Sonny, shaking though her hands kept pouring cocoa, couldn't erase the image. Waystell's throat ringed by weeds, as if offered a garland. She replayed directives she'd given volunteers, scoured for negligence. Sheriff Rowan declared it a probable accident. Costume got tangled, man slipped, swamps deeper than it looks. Still, he collected statements. Sonny's came last. She mentioned the missing folio and Waystell's certainty of importance. Rowan scratched notes, eyes tired. "If you remember anything else, call," he said, voice gentler than folk expected from his buzz cut. Morning brought drizzle and headlines. Historian dies during library event. Local legend lives on. The library closed for grief counselling, but Sonny couldn't sit in the staff lounge spooning lukewarm oatmeal. Instead, she slipped downstairs to archives, where the smell of dust calmed her. Waystell's research table remained, a neat rectangle of notebooks, one mug ring darkening a page. The leather folio lay atop the pile, returned sometime after his death. That detail, the folio's reappearance, pricked her curiosity like a tack. She opened it carefully. Inside lay fragile parchment illustrating a humanoid figure, bound in waterweed rope, annotations in Waystell's spidery hand. Trade requires water's witness, knowledge for breath. Scribbled below, fresher ink read, "Lochwood, 1692 minutes, confirm land deed hidden under harrowed plank. Could upend Whitcomb claim." Sonny's heart hammered. A land deed. That would explain the historian's clash with the mayor, and perhaps why someone might want him silenced. She copied Waystell's notes into her phone, then locked the folio back in the metal cabinet, pocketing the key. 2 floors up, the library foyer buzzed with hushed press. The mayor was giving a statement about supporting the Waystell family and re-evaluating swamp safety. Beside him, Lila Benton, Waystell's graduate assistant, dabbed reddened eyes. Lila, 22, had introduced herself to Sonny earlier in the week, claiming excitement to bridge academia and community fun. Now her gaze found Sonny across the foyer and held it a beat too long, as if searching for a signal. Later that afternoon, Sonny met Lila in the break room at Lila's request. Rain battered windows, making the fluorescent lights buzz. Lila spoke first. "Sheriff asked if Edgar and I argued. We didn't. We disagreed about the folio. He wouldn't let me cite it until he'd verified provenance." She wrung a damp sleeve. "But I'd swear he said he'd hide it someplace safe before the hunt." Did you see where? Sunny considered lying, but instead asked, Why was it dangerous? Lila inhaled sharply. Because if the land deed's authentic, Fergus's swampfront development is illegal. But Edgar worried more about the legend. He wasn't performing, Sunny. He believed the Mireling guard's knowledge. He thought publicizing the deed would wake something. Her voice cracked on the final words, but Sunny couldn't tell if it was grief or theatre. Sunny walked home under dripping elms, mind-tangling possibilities. Suppose Waystell discovered a deed proving Larkspur Swamp belonged to, say, descendants opposed to the mayor's project. Suppose someone, Fergus, learned this and confronted him under cover of the monster hunt, knowing Waystell dressed in a cumbersome cloak. An accident in knee-deep water could be arranged. Yet what of the folio's overnight return? Had guilt nudged the killer? Or had the folio simply changed hands twice during the chaos, borne by someone who cherished law over profit? The next morning, Sunny bicycled to Larkspur Swamp before sunrise, a flask of library coffee steaming in her basket. Yellow tape blocked the boardwalk, but she stepped over, phone flashlight low. Fog clung ankle-high. At marker post 13, where the body was found, she crouched. The planks here were smooth, but near the edge clumps of loosened peat suggested a scuffle. She knelt, fingers brushing something slick, a thin vine of waterweed not native to this shoreline. Waystell's costume weeds were plastic. This was real and smelled of brackish mud. According to a field guide she'd shelved last month, that particular species, spiral leaf pondweed, grew only at the swamp's centre, where water ran 6 feet deep. Someone had uprooted strands and wrapped them round Waystell's neck like the legend's depiction. Knowledge for breath. Sunny photographed the vine and retreated before deputies began their morning patrol. Back at the library, she cross-referenced maintenance logs. The only staffer with certified access to the swamp's centre by boat was Bo Hirsch, the groundskeeper, who regularly cleared invasive plants. She hunted him down behind the loading dock, where he sorted cracked stepping stones. Bo, usually affable, stiffened at her questions. Yes, he'd harvested pondweed Thursday for an aquarium store. No, he hadn't worked Saturday night. He'd been in the puppet theatre wrangling fog machines. Ask anyone. Sunny did. 2 volunteers confirmed. If Bo's weed was the same species, it could have been taken from his discarded pile without his knowledge. Before lunch, the sheriff called. Toxicology showed nothing unusual. Cause of death, drowning, complicated by exhaustion. Rowan thanked Sunny for the weed photo. Evidentiary teams were analysing it. Off the record, he added, I have to track motives. The mayor's a shiny suspect, but he was on stage handing out awards when Waystell disappeared. Sunny pictured Fergus's red cheeks beneath stage lights about 8:30 p.m. The scream sounded at 9. Plenty of time to slip into reeds, but witnesses? Rowan sighed. Keep your librarian nose out for now. Sunny promised and immediately broke it. She needed a timeline. She re-examined the event schedule. Waystell's first scheduled scare appearance, 8:10 by Clue Station 10, second at 8:50 near the boardwalk fork. If he'd never shown for the second, the window between 8:30 and 9 was critical. She interviewed the Medusa volunteer, Sarah Pratt, who had seen Waystell near 8:40. He walked past me muttering, Sarah recalled, like reciting lines. Water witness, something. Then someone answered from the water, real quiet. I thought it was a speaker effect. Sarah heard a splash but couldn't tell direction through fog. Another witness, teenage twins gathering stamps, described seeing 2 Mirelings. One looked bulky, the other slimmer. They'd giggled at miling marriage and ran. 2 costumes? Or Wastrel and an imposter? Sonny pulled volunteer costume records. Only 1 miling suit existed, custom fit to Wastrel. But archives kept older parade outfits. She hurried downstairs, unlocked a trunk of mothballed attire. Inside lay a shabby green suit, lighter fabric, seams burst under armpit. Mud flecked its hem, still wet. Her stomach lurched. Someone had changed clothes in the basement. After the murder. She snapped photos and relocked the trunk. The person with most unsupervised basement time last night had been Lila, who'd claimed she needed quiet for citations. Sonny confronted her in the microfilm alcove. Lila flushed when shown the photos. "I found that suit in the attic days ago," she admitted. "I planned a prank. 2 milings would delight kids. Edgar said no. The legend tolerates no mockery. So I hid the suit. After his accident, I panicked and stashed it downstairs." Her voice trembled. "I didn't hurt him, Sonny. I loved him like a mentor. I only wanted to prove the folio's value, get my thesis in nature and narrative. I thought if people saw the miling, hype would spark grants." Tears slid. Sincerity seemed real, yet she had means and opportunity. Sonny asked bluntly, "Where were you at 8:40? Lila wiped cheeks. "In the swamp, wearing the fake suit. I overturned a canoe while splashing for effect, got soaked. Came back to change. When I heard the scream, I ran with everyone else." She bit her lip. "Edgar was alive when I left him. He said someone was meeting him at post 13, someone who understood the trade. I thought he meant me, but he looked past me." Lila exhaled. Maybe he believed if he made the legend come alive, he could bargain for knowledge of the deed's hiding place, but I swear I left him standing. Sonny replayed details. Wastrel expected a rendezvous. Who else invoked mystical rhetoric? Beau, not poetic. Mayor, too pragmatic. That left Judy Harker, the senior reference librarian, whose folklore club worshipped myth. Judy had complained that Sonny's teen program overshadowed her serious scholarship. Yesterday, Judy had consoled Sonny with alarming glee. Real monsters make better readers. Could Judy believe the legend literally? After closing, Sonny unlocked Judy's office, guilt knotting her stomach. Inside, stacks of folk magic tomes ringed a cleared circle on carpet. Chalk symbols scrawled. Atop the circle lay a waterproof portfolio labelled Town Council Originals. The land deed. Sonny lifted it. Dampness clung along one edge. Footsteps clicked behind her. Judy stood in the doorway, hair in a tight grey bun, eyes luminous. "You shouldn't be here, sunshine." Sonny swallowed. "You met Wastrel at the swamp." Judy shut the door. "He asked me to witness the trade. He believed the miling demanded an archivist, a steward of stories. Edgar was prepared to submerge for answers." Her voice shook with fervour. "But when he waded out, panic seized him. He thrashed, tearing weeds. I tried to pull him, but costume weight." She closed eyes. "I wanted the knowledge too, but not his death. Then why leave him? I heard voices, people approaching. If they saw me, the folio would be confiscated, the legend commercialized. I fled with the deed." Judy's hands opened, imploring. "You understand. Books breathe. Legends protect. The swamp is all we have from the old world." Sonny stepped backward. "You let him drown to keep a story pure." "He chose the bargain," Judy insisted. "As will I, if need be." Her fingers curled around a letter opener. "Return the deed." Sonny's pulse thundered. She slid the portfolio into her messenger bag. "The sheriff needs it. We can preserve the swamp legally, not mystically. Edgar's death deserves truth. Judy advanced, letter opener glinting. Sonny grasped a heavy reference atlas from the desk. Stop, or I scream loud enough to summon half the knitting club. Voices drifted outside, patrons leaving evening workshops. Judy's resolve flickered. She set the opener down, shoulders sagging. I only wanted reverence. Minutes later, Sheriff Rowan escorted Judy out in cuffs. She faced charges of negligent homicide and evidence tampering. Whether a jury would see zealotry as malice remained to be seen. The deed, intact, indeed nullified the mayor's development plans, preserving Larkspur Swamp by law. A week after the arrest, the library reopened fully. Sunlight slanted through tall windows, dust motes swirling like tiny spirits. Sonny stood at the new exhibit case displaying the restored folio, flanked by safety rails. A plaque read, "History demands witnesses." Below, in smaller print, dedicated to Dr. Edgar Waistell, whose passion for story reminds us that legends, like people, drown when we fail to look closely. Teens gathered for book club, gossiping about monsters. Sonny passed out maps. No hunt this year, just a literary scavenger trail through brightly lit stacks. One student groaned that it lacked danger. Sonny smiled, hearing distant frogs croak through open windows. Monsters live where we let mystery stagnate, she said, leading them forward. Let's keep the stories above water. When the last patron left that evening, Sonny locked doors and strolled the deserted boardwalk. Moonlight painted the swamp silver. A breeze stirred reeds, and for a heartbeat she fancied a shape rising, scales, crown of weeds, beard dripping. She whispered once, in honor, "Myling." Water rippled but remained still. Some bargains, she'd learned, were written not in blood or breath, but ink. And so long as librarians kept watch, that was trade enough.